This is breaking news from 4 News Now.
Good afternoon for 4 News Now. I'm Rob King. We begin the kxly-plus-daily rundown with breaking news near downtown Spokane. We were alerted to heavy law enforcement presence near 1st and Division Street at an apartment complex down there. And what we originally knew was that all 3 Frontier behavioral health facilities were on lockdown. We did not know why, but we have since sent a crew to the scene and have learned that this morning around 9:30, a woman was robbed at gunpoint near 1st and Division by the Haven Apartments, and the gunman has fled into a building, and now there is currently a SWAT standoff in that area as they look for this person. Peter Choi is on scene and tweeting information as it comes in, so you can follow us, KXLY, on Twitter to get the latest information on that. But if you are near downtown Spokane, just avoid the 1st and Division. Between about Division and Pine is where this is mostly taking place. So currently in a standoff there, and we'll have more information as it becomes available. So from that, later on tonight, we have a special report from 4 News Now's Aaron Luna. He's going to have some home buying tips, how to improve your credit score. It's a scary process. Aaron is here to lend a helping hand. So let's go ahead and bring him in with his tips and tricks. Aaron Luna, how are you?
I'm doing well, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing great. So what can you tell me about your special report?
Well, first off, just want to say this is not financial advice.
Oh, good. Are you legally required to say that?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to say it just in case. I'm not giving out financial advice. We talk to experts, and every expert's going to tell you a little something different. We talk to a home buyer as well to find out what process he's going through. And so I just figured I'd throw that out there just to cover my bases. But we did find out a couple of different things. First off, when we're talking about a credit score is kind of made up of 5 different categories. The big ones are going to be your basic payment history. That makes up 35% of your credit score, right? Then another 30% is the amount that you owe people. So what's on your credit card, if you have a car loan, things like that. Then new credit's about 10%. 15% is like the length of your credit history. So how long have you been paying on those debits or those debts, how long you've been accruing credit. And then just the 10% is like a credit mix, which involves a lot of other things as well. So if you're getting into the home buying process, a lot of people coming out of the pandemic, right? Some people weren't able to work. Maybe you had a couple of bills that you weren't able to pay because you didn't have the solid income coming in. Your credit score might be a little dinged, right? And credit scores, basically you have 850 on the top end, and you can go all the way down to a 0 credit score. And 0 credit score doesn't mean like you're the worst. It may mean that you have just no credit. You have no credit cards. Maybe you're a young person, or you just pay everything in cash, so you have no credit. So when I was talking to Chad Thomas, who is the regional manager for Q Home Loans in Spokane, we kind of went through the basic steps that he takes his client through to get the best possible interest rate on a home loan. And so what he does first, does a soft credit pull. Basically, that's not going to show up on your credit score. He's going to look at that, and then once he gets that number, he's going to be able to plug it into a couple of calculators and figure out specific things to say, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to improve your credit score. And he was telling me that most people who go through the program, almost a good, at least 100%, in certain circumstances, have the ability to raise their credit score by 80 points in some cases.
So it's really just about educating people about what they can do?
Yeah, there's easy steps that everyone can take. So the first step would be, after you get that, that soft credit pull, to find out where you're at. And if you have a high credit score, which Experian lists the high credit score like 749 is very good, up to the 800, and then 800, 850 is the top of the line. So you're kind of just looking at where your credit score falls in those little tiers, if you will. So if you are kind of like 750 and above, there's really not much you can do to improve the number, like your interest rate on your home loan, because you're kind of in that tier. But let's say you're kind of down in the 699 range, and you just need to bump up your credit score to that 760 or above if possible. There are things you can do, and it might be kind of obvious for some people. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to pay down a credit card where I was over the limit. Seems pretty obvious, right?
Sure.
Yeah. That's
Don't have too much credit card debt. That's good advice.
Yeah, don't have too much credit card. Goes back to one of those things, like how much 30% of your credit score is how much you owe there. So you're bringing those types of things down. You're reducing your credit the debt you owe on your credit, and bringing it down past that limit.
So how can you check what your credit score is? I mean, it's not something like you can memorize because it's constantly changing. Yeah. So what are the ways you can go about doing that?
Well, one thing about a credit score is, like, if you're not doing anything about it, let's say, you have some old collections on your credit score, and if you don't do anything, you just kind of continue doing what you're doing, your credit score won't fluctuate very much, right? So if you're going to get into something where you're buying a major purchase, you can if you're going to go through a lender, you go to them and say, hey, can I get a soft credit pull? Or you can actually go and get your own credit score through, the 3 financial institutions, Experian, Equifax, and I can't think of the other one right now, but they will give you
TransUnion. Does that sound right?
TransUnion, yeah. I don't have it listed in front of me. I was like, of course I can remember.
I know that at the top of my head. I was recently a victim of identity theft, so that was fun.
So you had to go through all
about that.
So you can check your credit score on your own, and that kind of gives you the knowledge of, okay, well now I have a base layer or a jumping off point on where I want to be. And then when you're working with a lender, you can say, well, you're going to get a better interest rate, or we can work with you a little bit more if we just bring that credit score up, let's say 40 points, 60 points, 80 points, 100 points. So you start paying down those credit cards that are over your limit, right? You bring your debt down a little bit. And then here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Some people might think, oh, I've got an old collection on my credit score. I'm just going to go ahead and pay that off. Sounds right. I mean, like, sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if you got
Why
money
not?
You owe, pay it.
Pay it, right? Well, in the short term, that actually might do more damage than good. It's like, in the long term, paying off those collections, great idea. Your credit score is going to be your credit's going to be healthier in the long run. But in the short term, you might erase that debt, and that might actually drop your credit score. And you want a higher credit score in, the next 2 to 3 months, like 1, 2, or 3 months, because you're applying for that home loan. So that's something you want to really consider, because it depends on when that collection has been reported.
Okay,
so
that makes more sense.
If you pay that off, and then like, oh, you've taken that collection and you've reduced it so it doesn't show up on your reporting, then your credit score is going to drop. In the long term, it's going to be better for you and it's going to help you out. But in the short term, you might not want to do that. So that's something you want to talk to your lender about.
Got it. So if you're a young man like myself, maybe you're recently married like myself, and your wife maybe wants to move out of an apartment into a house, what are some ways that I can go about either improving my credit score to get a better interest rate on my loan, or saving money for that big ticket purchase?
Yeah, I mean, everyone can do these simple things, right? We talked about paying off your credit card debt, talking to a lender, getting pre-approved if you're buying a house is huge, and that's where the credit score comes into play almost immediately, because then you're going to want to find out, well, what am I going to pay on an interest rate? And right now, as you know, interest rates have been raised by the Fed over 10 consecutive times. The last one was just in March.
I think we had a article on our web this morning saying it's as high as it's been since mid-March right now.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to pay a lot of interest rate, because that's compounded over the length of your home loan. If you're also trying to build credit, and let's say, you're a young man who doesn't have a lot of credit, you can actually go to your lender and you can get what's called a secure credit card. And so that is when you give them, let's say, $300. Then they issue you a credit card for $300. That gives you that $300 max on there. Then you use that credit card for simple things over the next 2 to 3 months. This process takes a little bit longer because it's not something you can do like in that 30-day time period where you're approved for a home loan and then you try to bring your credit score up as high as possible. This takes a little bit longer because you need to make that credit history. But what it does, it allows you to use some credit, and it's already being paid off because you put that money forward, and then it goes to your payment history, and that starts bringing your credit score up. So if you have a little bit of time to work with, that's a good way to do it as well. Now, let's say your credit score is already good. Like you already have, something that the lender's like, well, you're in that top tier. Your interest rate is pretty much going to be, 8.2 or whatever your lender is working with you on that specific number. Then you come into a position where you can buy down points. That's a whole different ball game. But a lot of people are doing this right now. The buyer I talked to, Ryan Johnson, he was saying, not he doesn't buy houses very often, but the last home he bought was 16 years ago. And now he's buying another home, and he was just shocked that he was actually buying down points. And then Thomas with Q Home Loans was saying in his 30 years in the business doing that, he's told people multiple times, never pay the points. Never pay points to bring down your interest rate. But now that's just where the market is. And it's kind of a situation where, well, let's just real quick talk about what it is buying down your interest rate. So you take a percentage of your overall loan, say 1%, and you put that down to bring and that might drop you 0.75%, depending on what lender and bank you're working with. So that way
you're paying less over time.
That's the key. You pay a little bit more money up front, less over time to bring that interest rate down. And both of these guys I talked to, was like they were surprised that this is the way it's going, but that's just kind of the market we're in, and that's what people are doing to save a good chunk of change over the long term. The thought process, what Chad was saying, banks typically lose money in the first 2 years when they, lend money for a home purchase. And there's speculation, now this is just speculation, Rob, that the Fed is probably going to either drop interest rates a little bit or start leveling it out in the next, in June is the next bump that they're going to look at. But then by December, there's some thought process that interest rates might actually come down, which would encourage people to refinance their homes. And once again, by not financial advice, but this is the speculation that I've heard from some lenders and people I talk to. So they're saying, okay, buy down banks wanting you to buy down those points now, because if you're just going to refinance in December, then they're going to lose a little bit more money. So what they want to do is front load that loan to you. They want to get more money up front, cuts down their loss in the first part of that home loan. And then you go back and refinance. And so you're bringing that interest rate down over the long term. So that's kind of the thought process going into that right now. Different than a lot of people have seen in quite some time, but that's what people are telling us.
Sure. Well, it's absolutely fascinating, Aaron, and I'm glad you're here to ease the stresses of the community and at least offer a helping hand to be like, hey, let me sort of break it down for you. So I personally appreciate the help.
Well, it's one of those things that there are certain things you can do, and you talk to your lender, talk to someone you trust, and they can get that credit score and plug it into a calculator that says if you do A, B, and C, you can raise your credit score to a certain amount. And that just gives you kind of, like I said before, a jumping off point to, start the process of, if you're buying a home, that's a huge process. And it just makes it simpler. So you have the steps. So you're not going out there and thinking to yourself, oh gosh, it's going to be this huge expense over this long period of time. There's ways to manage it. Most lenders they're going to find a way to get you approved for a loan. It's up to you to just figure out, what can I afford? What do I want? And, how do I make that American dream part of my reality?
Well, can't think of a better way to end it. Aaron Luna, thank you so much for your time. Aaron's special report will air tonight in 4 News Now at 6, and then it'll be on our website if you miss it on TV at kxly.com. Aaron, anything else you want to add before I let you go?
Don't make any major purchases. If you're in the market for a home and you're starting to secure that home loan, don't go out and buy a new car. Some people have done that, and then they
one at a time.
They realize that now I'm not approved for that loan that I thought I was going to get because I've got this extra debt that wasn't on the books beforehand. So focus on one thing at a time, step by step. Talk to someone you trust. Talk to a lot of people. It makes a difference.
Appreciate your time, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob.
And like I said, Aaron's special report will be airing tonight in 4 News Now at 6. And it'll be up on our website, kxly.com, along with this interview if you missed some of it or want a little inside information. We like to do these exclusive one-on-one chats where the person who's doing the special report can really dive deeper into what they're working on. Let's take a look at what the rest of the 4 News Now team is working on today. Starting with Jordan Smith, he's doing a follow-up to a story that broke yesterday about a 17-year-old Spokane teen who was found dead in Yakima County last month. She was identified by the coroner as 17-year-old Samantha Kalinchuk. We also learned that she was a former student of Mount Spokane High. So Jordan Smith is investigating to find out what we can about what Samantha was doing down in that region and see if there's any suspects in her death. What we do know right now is that around that same time, there was a man who was arrested for failing to register as a sex offender in Spokane County, among other crimes. So Jordan wants to see if we can confirm if that's maybe connected or if it's not related at all, and just find out all he can, putting on his investigative reporter cap today. Natalie Grant, she's out in Coeur d'Alene this morning, or I guess this afternoon now, where today is Maddie May Day, the first ever. Now, Maddie May Day was created by Madison Mogen's family because today would have been her birthday. Madison Mogen was one of the victims in the University of Idaho killings. So her family, to honor Maddie's legacy, created Maddie May Day, in which they're just calling on community members to go out, do a random act of kindness, something Maddie would have done, and then share that on social media with the hashtag Maddie May Day. And just, find someone, maybe buy a cup of coffee for a stranger, hold the door, a smile, anything, just something to brighten someone's day around you. So Natalie is in Coeur d'Alene speaking with some local businesses that are participating in Maddie May Day. And just a reminder, the murder trial for the man accused of killing Maddie, along with 3 others at the University of Idaho, has been scheduled for October 2nd. So Brian Koberger, the suspect, will appear in court for the murder trial. Peter Choi, in addition to being out at the breaking news scene this morning, again, that standoff that's in downtown Spokane, he was also checking out a new EMT school in Spokane Valley. Now, this is run through the Spokane Valley Fire Department, and what they've learned is that a lot of calls that they respond to require higher medical knowledge than maybe what people get through either basic police or basic fire training. So they want to offer these EMS services too, so that anyone can sign up and help someone in need. So Peter's going to look at the benefit this brings to Spokane Valley, as well as, if you're interested, how to maybe join them. Sign up yourself. In addition, today's the big day, reveal day out in Rathdrum. The Extreme Team's Diamonds and Dreams project will wrap up today at Stub Myers Park, where they've been renovating the ball field there. And tonight in 4 News Now at 6 will be the big reveal. Mark Peterson and the Extreme Team been hard at work all week to renovate it. It's looking like a new field, a new turf, a new backstop, all new things. Painting, even Robin Nance and Derek Dice were out there this morning as well, helping out. So today is the big day. Exciting for the community of Rathdrum. Let's close out with a look outside. For the weather, it's going to be mostly warmer today than it was yesterday. We're going to hit the mid-70s this afternoon. It's still going to be kind of this cloudy mix that we've been seeing pretty much all week. But it's nice to get out on your patio, and nice to get out on your patio because today is National Wine Day, if you needed another excuse. It's looking like it's going to stay warm all weekend as well. We could see some rain chances Friday into Saturday, and but today, at least, if there is any rain, it's going to be closer to the Canadian border, so we should dodge it here, at least in the Spokane-Coeur d'Alene metro. And like I said, warm all weekend, shaping up to be a pretty sweet one. So get out, enjoy it while you can. So that's all we have for today's KXLY Plus Daily Rundown. Thank you for joining. Be sure to download KXLY Plus on your connected TVs. That's Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. You can also download the 4 News Now mobile app and be sure to turn on notifications so you get the latest information breaking in your community. So we'll have all those stories and more coming up tonight, including Aaron Luna's special report at 6. But for now, live in studio, I'm Rob King for KXLY Plus.